This is video 2 of a 6-part video series on reporting injuries, illnesses, and exposures. The reporting process begins with the Sharepoint site. Today we're going to review the location of the various forms and checklists that one would need to report an injury, illness, or exposure. Open Sharepoint, click on Operations. There's a blue button labeled Work-Related Injury, Illness, or Exposure. Click on that button. You will see 5 blue buttons. Inside each of these blue buttons are additional blue buttons that take you to the forms and the checklist that you need to report an injury, illness, or exposure. There's also a brief synopsis of the policy and a brief flowchart that you can follow step by step. Notice that each button handles a different type of incident. For instance, the top button, No Medical Treatment, Record Only, would be used if an individual wanted to report an injury or an illness but did not anticipate seeking medical care. The second button, Injury, Medical Treatment, No Hospitalization, would be used if someone experienced an injury or an illness, anticipated seeking medical care, or did in fact seek medical care, but was not admitted to the hospital outside of the emergency room. The third button is labeled Inpatient Hospitalization. This button contains the process that would be used if an employee was admitted to the hospital with a serious illness or injury. The intent of this video is not to review each form and checklist individually, but to show you how the buttons can be used to navigate through the process and then follow the directions on the checklists and the forms. Let's click the first button, No Medical Treatment, Record Only. When the button opens up, you'll see brief written instructions on what should happen. There's also a visual step-by-step flowchart showing you the process to use moving forward. Also, any forms or checklists that are referred to in the process are available in this location by clicking the additional blue buttons. So let's walk through a simple process together. Let's say an employee twisted their ankle. They want to report it but don't anticipate seeking medical treatment for it. They'd click on the top button. They'd identify what their responsibilities are, in this case notifying their supervisor or the battalion chief. The flowchart shows No Medical Treatment, Record Only. Notify the duty, BC, and supervisor. Fill out the Employee Injury, Illness, and Exposure Report form and forward that report to the BC, who will forward it to the operations analyst. The process is detailed in Amendment A, the Incident or Exposure Reporting Checklist. By clicking on the button, a more detailed checklist appears. The Employee Injury, Illness, Exposure Report form is available. By clicking on the blue button, the report can be filled out. It's important that any time a form or a checklist is filled out, that it is filled out legibly. The same concept is used for the other buttons. For instance, if an employee is injured and does seek medical treatment, clicking on that blue button opens up a short list of instructions, a visual flowchart to follow, and any necessary checklists and attachments. The concept is the same for all 5 buttons. Notice the escalation of severity in the top 3 buttons. In the first one, it's a record-only report. In the second one, the individual is getting medical care but is not hospitalized. And on the third button, the employee has been admitted to the hospital. The bottom 2 buttons deal specifically with chemical exposures and biological exposures. In the next video, we will begin the process of reviewing the paperwork that needs to be filled out in detail. This concludes video 2 of Injury, Illness, and Exposure Reporting.